the grand mirage. Ever since
I'm Alison Arngrim, and this is the Alison Arngrim Show. Now, some of you may remember me as Evil Nellie Olson, but today I'm Alison Arngrim, and this is the Alison Arngrim Show. And here on the Alison Arngrim Show, we talk about things that make us feel good, the movies and the TV shows that made us feel good, and the people who made them, and people who are doing things now to make the world a better and more interesting place. And oh, do I have one tonight? I'm so excited. I'm so excited because I know her. I know her. Now, you know her grandparents. Wait, what? We're interviewing someone with famous grandparents? Oh, not just any famous grandparents. Okay. If you are anywhere remotely rootin' tootin' shooting distance of my age, anywhere, you completely know who these people are. And even you young people, you know who they are. Roy Rogers. Wait, do you know who Roy Rogers is and Dale Evans? Even if you weren't old enough to see all the movies and all the TV shows, you know who they freaking are, right? So Roy and Dale, who were not just a Western couple. I mean, they were an institution. It's hard to even explain if you're not our age what they were. Or they had movie TV shows, but it was like Roy and Dale, Roy Rogers and Dale Evans. Happy trails to you. Yeah, that. Well, their granddaughter, Julie Rogers, and I never use your last name, Pomilia, Pomilia.
Yeah.
Julie has written a book. She's written a book about her famous grandparents and her life with them. And she's cool. She's a kick in the pants. I love her. And this is the only book. This is the first book ever about Roy and Dale, an in-depth book ever that anybody's done. And Julie's done it. And she's the one to do it. So everybody, Julie Rogers. Hello.
Hi. Actually, I'm the first grandchild to write a book.
You're the first grandchild to write a book. Who wrote one? Somebody wrote one. Somebody snuck one
So
in.
my Uncle Dusty wrote one a long time ago.
Yes,
My Aunt Cheryl wrote one. What's that?
But that was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago. And my Aunt Cheryl wrote one a few years back. But there's something special with a grandchild and a grandparent that is so different from a child. I mean, they have a great perspective. I have a different perspective, and the first grandchild to ever give that perspective because I just had a really special relationship with them.
You did, because I was at the Roy and Dale Fest, that whole
They
Roy Rogers
invited you
festival.
to the Roy Rogers Festival. That's right, in Portsmouth, Ohio.
And so I heard you talking. You did. You had a really special relationship with your grandparents. You really.
Yeah.
So this is epic. So as they've been referred to as the Royal Western couple, I love how Arlo said, well, they're technically the Brad and Angelina of their day. And I was like, wait, what? Because one of the things they did, not everyone knows this, Roy and Dale adopted a lot of kids. They had a ton of kids, and they had a ton of adopted kids.
Yep. Out of nine, 5 of them were adopted out of 9. And it wasn't really the thing to do back then. And they didn't do it because of that. It just happened. And so I have one aunt that is Native American. I had another aunt that was Korean. I had another aunt that was Scottish from Scotland. And then I had another uncle who had special needs, mild brain damage because he was beaten as a child and abandoned. And my grandparents said, who's gonna take this little guy home? And their hearts melted. So they took him. And their friends would tease them that every time they went to an orphanage or a children's hospital, they'd come home with another kid, so they just kept collecting them. And it was great. It was a really multicultural, really inclusive, wonderful family to grow up in. Yeah.
And this is so like that most people just like, they have no clue at all about this. And then your Dale's granddaughter from her son. I'm just keeping track of this huge family.
Yeah, I know. My dad was her first and only son, biologically from her first marriage. She had 3 marriages before Grandpa. Couldn't quite get it right. And then he had 2, and then they married, and then they started adopting all these kids. And, they really changed the landscape of the social awareness of kids with special needs. And they were really big into children's, charities and things like that. So it was a crazy family. It was loud and crazy, but I felt so loved. There was never a time when I didn't feel loved.
And that's this is very surprising. It's not the stay cliche image that people had of Roy and Dale and of Dale. I mean, when we watch her on TV, it's like, okay, she's fitting the classic mold of the good, 1950s wife and mom.
Yeah.
But no, this was a very independent woman. This is a businesswoman. And she was also, as you said, did she like run away from home, get married as a teenager?
She did. She did. She ran away at 14. She had my dad at 15.
Yikes.
And then by 17, she was divorced because her husband didn't feel like he wanted a wife and a son, which of course he didn't think about, before the fact. But yeah, he decided
ran away with a teenager.
Like he wasn't ready for that. So it's like, so she was a secretary by day and went to night school and was singing on the radio, just little tiny stations that were local. And she definitely took the hard road. She was really bullheaded, and she would tell you what she thought, whether you wanted to hear it or not. And strangely enough, she told me many times that I was just like her. Now,
I was going to ask, how much do you take after Dale, and why do I think it's a lot?
Yeah, Grandma, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because I'm not pretty sure here. But anyway, I talk a lot, and maybe that's part of the reason. But my Uncle Dusty told me the same thing. You might just be part of the Talkers Club. See, Grandma was the president of the Talkers Club.
Okay. And, I've seen you by her. I did the Dale Evans show 100 million billion years ago.
Oh, you did?
I was on the Dale Evans show.
A date with Dale? Yep. A date with Dale?
Date with Dale, or was it the one where they're calling it just the Dale Evans show? Because she had like a couple different talk shows.
Yeah, but did she let you talk? Did she let you talk?
She did. She let the guests talk, but she was amazing. She was a great interview. She was fabulous.
No, I had her. She had us on her show, and she would not let us talk. She'd say something, and then all we could say was, "Yeah, that's right. That's right." We teased her mercilessly about that, but anyway, she was so cute.
And then how did she meet Roy? Because Roy was coming up through the movies, and they both had these really different, divergent lives. How did these two wind up getting married?
Well, yeah, she didn't want to be a cowgirl. She wanted to be glamorous and amorous and wearing gowns like the one that she gave me that I wore at the festival that time. It's you feel like a sausage in it, like it's a sausage casing.
Oh, you fit in that. You fit in. I saw you. You totally fit in.
I don't know. You whip that thing around, this thing around your neck, and you can like poke 6 people's eyes out with it, whip it around. But anyway, she gave me lots of clothing, but she did not want to be a cowgirl. And so she lied her way into Hollywood and said she had a screen test with Fred Astaire coming up. And she lied and said she could dance. Well, you don't bluff your way through dancing with Fred Astaire, right?
I mean, this is the thing all actors do. Do you ride a horse? Yes, of course. Do you
dance? Yeah, I do. Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. You just say, sure, yeah. Pogo stick, roller skate. You say, yeah. But it's with Fred Astaire, maybe.
Well, yeah. I mean, you fake it till you make it to only to a certain point. But with Fred Astaire, she finally said, "Look, I can't do this. I can't dance." It was for Holiday Inn, so they said, "Well, honey, we have another movie, up and coming young cowboy star that he needs a leading lady for this movie. So we'll test you for that. So do you ride a horse?" "Oh, of course I do." Well, she didn't know how to ride a horse either.
Yes, I do everything. Why?
So,
yes, classic actor.
Got on the horse. Grandpa said, I mean, he was very gentlemanlike when he first met her, but she didn't even know which side of the horse to get on. She didn't know one end from the other. And he said when she started trotting down the path, he never saw so much daylight between a woman's rear end and a horse in his whole life. And yeah, no, it was not a pretty sight. So he said, you might want to get some riding lessons. And he gave her some tips on the set. So by the time their show ended, she was a decent rider, but not, she wasn't going to win any awards or anything. But
it sounds like she rode a horse like me. 7 years in a Little House on the Prairie, can't ride to save my life. Yeah. So I'm like, I'm with her. I want to be glamorous. And no horses.
Me too. And my husband had to teach me how to ride a horse. And he said, because he's a really great horseman and we have horses. We have Palominos, shocker. But he said, I can't believe that I am teaching Roy Rogers' granddaughter how to ride a horse. I said, we sat on Trigger, we rode around the corral, That's about it, pal. That's all I got.
Yeah, I sat on a horse and then we'd say like giddy up and then cut and then somebody
Yes, yes, and
like
somebody
a
pulled
lot
him. Yeah,
of that. It was Harlan, actually, Harlan actually taught me to ride a horse in adulthood. Said, "Here, oh, for heaven's sake, let me take you out somewhere."
Who taught you?
Harlan, like the publicist Harlan Ball.
Are you? I know he's my publicist, but how did
great late adulthood, because he and I've been friends for a long time. He's like, seriously, do you want to get over your fear of horses? Because I mean, I can take you out. We'll just go around a bit in the horse. And so he's got me where I'm no longer like pathologically terrified of them. I can, like,
you had to go to Little House on the Prairie feeling this way about horses?
It was really hard. It was really hard. No, it's Harlan finally got. I can now be in the same zip code as a horse and not have like an anxiety attack.
Oh, that is just frightening to me.
I was a mess, but I love it. So Dale is, I mean, she's more totally city and a classic actress. Oh, yeah. Like, oh yeah, I ride a horse, I'll lie about anything. Yeah. It's hysterical. So they wind up working together, and of course they do make a perfect couple on screen. So like, boom. Yeah.
Well, right away, she liked it. They had the same manager, and she didn't like him before she met him because all her manager would talk about was Roy this and Roy that, because he was really soaring in his popularity, and she was still struggling a bit. So she was like, "Oh, who's this Roy?" And so she gets on set, and immediately you can't not love him. I mean, he was just really, really a nice man, and so they got along really well. And down the road, her husband and her divorced. She was single for a while, and then his wife died in childbirth with my Uncle Dusty about a week later. And so he was with three small children, and my grandma with one, and so they got married. And then
it was the Brady Bunch. It was the Brady Bunch. It's like, okay, we're alone. I got kids, you got kids, mine too. I don't know. What do we do now? Yeah, there they are.
That's exactly it. Yep. It was a great family. It still is.
I was, when I was at the Roy Rogers Festival, I was amazed. Roy wasn't his real name to start. That's his stage name. Because we go, it's all, I mean, it kind of, a lot of it was Hollywood and artifice here. His real name.
Yeah, well, his name was Leonard Sly.
Leonard. I know, cowboy. Leonard. Yeah. Lenny the cowboy. It doesn't work. I see.
No, it doesn't.
Where's my cowboy Lenny? What? No.
Well, his mom was not having any other name. She said, I named you Leonard, and I'm going to call you Leonard till the day I die. And so she always called him Leonard. She was the only one in the whole world that called him Leonard. But he chose the name Dick Weston by himself because he thought, oh, okay, that sounds like a cool name. Well, Republic, when he got to Republic, they didn't like the name, so they said, no, we're going to change your name. And so somehow they got around to Rogers because he really liked Will Rogers, and he was a big fan of his. Okay. And then they couldn't think of anything that goes with Rogers, so they finally, just thought of Roy. It just kind of rolled off your tongue, and that's what stuck. So they named him, but they didn't like his eyes. They didn't like the fact he was small. They didn't like, like his.
He was supposed to have a makeover. I was reading that it sounded like Hollywood now. They wanted him to have a whole makeover, like surgery. They were going to completely redo him.
Exactly, and you don't think of that back in the 40s, but they didn't like his squinty eyes, so they got some prescription eye drops for him and made the muscles relax so that his eyes would open up. And all of a sudden, he's getting all these fan letters saying, "What are you doing to Roy's eyes? We like his eyes. What are you doing?" And so they said, okay.
Like kind of squinting into the sun. That's the classic cowboy look.
Well, that was part of, exactly. That was part of his image.
And his eyes that squint. That's Roy Rogers. So wait, they put drops in his eyes. So it was like, "Hi, I'm Roy Rogers." What?
Yeah. Hello.
No, and that's bad.
Yeah. So they didn't, and he wasn't buff enough, so they told him he had to do handstands. Why handstands and not just lifting weights? I don't know. So he got so good
like a normal person. No,
he got so good at handstands that he would walk from set to set on his hands. Hello, how are you? Anyway, and they wanted him to go to parties because they wanted to get his name out there. They said, come on, rub shoulders with all these famous people. So
just like now, I remember growing up on Little House in around the 80s. We called them monkey parties because she just kind of got dressed up in your monkey suit, got all dressed up. And the idea was, since you often didn't know people there and it wasn't a real party, it's like, okay, we'll get in, get a drink, get something to eat, try to find at least one person we actually know who we like, and get our picture taken, and then leave. And sometimes you could do 4 or 5 a night if you timed it right. And but it was like I gotta go to the party shift, and it was.
I bet you were really good. I bet you were really good at small talk, though. At just kind of.
I could do it. I thought it was boring as all get up, but I could do it.
Well, see, Grandpa couldn't do that. He was so bashful. He would stare at his shoes and not know what to say. So finally he said, well, can I invite a friend? And they said, sure, invite a friend. Go, go. So he invited his hunting buddy, and they sat on the couch all night and talked about coon hunting. And they finally said, okay, you know what? Never mind. Don't go.
He didn't bring a buddy to be like a wingman, talk to people. He just brought someone to talk to, so he can really ignore everyone.
He was kind of a train wreck when it came to celebrity stuff, because it just wasn't him.
So I love that Roy was like, the anti-celebrity. When we think of like historically this huge star, we all remember like he was the anti-celebrity. So, I mean, I guess hooking up then with Dale must have really worked, because obviously she could talk to anybody. She could talk the bark off a tree. So
yes, she could. And somebody actually, he was asked quite a few times, do you mind that Dale talks so much? And he said, nope, because it gives me plenty of time to think of what I want to say. And he, she was the perfect wingman for him. It was like, it just worked because he felt confident when she was around, because he was still, even into his 80s, he was still shy. It just wasn't him. Hollywood wasn't him. So, but when you got him talking, or you got him out, someplace where he was comfortable, he was a great storyteller and just lovely. I mean, we had such a great relationship, the two of us. So
how did they marry? How long were they? Was they married when they realized they were both alone? So how long were they making pictures together before they got married?
Oh, probably about like 4 years, 3 or 4 years or something. But his wife died fairly soon when she had Dusty, and so you're spending those long hours together. Each other already, and you're good friends. And it just, when they finally, he asked her to marry him as they were on their horses ready to ride into Madison Square Gardens, into the arena. And she didn't even have time to answer him, because the gates opened, the lights came on, and they went out. She was like, what just happened there? So real romantic.
Friends, but they were friends and co-workers. So now it makes sense of why this relationship worked so well.
Yeah. And they were married 60 years. I mean, they had a long, long life together. You can't really think of Roy without Dale. They just kind of go together. And they did. We had rockin' family times.
Well, and I was reading the thing, we always say happy trails to you. We say but Dale wrote it. Dale wrote Happy Trails.
Okay, and do you think anyone told me? Nobody told me that. Nobody told me anything. That's one of my chapters in the book. Nobody in this family tells me anything. I was in college. I'm doing my work at my desk in the dorm, and I hear Dale Evans' name kind of pop out of the radio. And so I turned it up to see what they were talking about. And the guy was saying, yeah, Dale Evans wrote that iconic song, Happy Trails. And I said, what? Nobody told me that. And I went to the phone and I said, Grandma, you wrote that? And she said, whoa, wrote what? I said, Happy Trails. She said, well, yeah. And I said, well, why didn't you ever tell me? She said, well, baby, I just didn't think it was that important. So there. Okay. Great, Grandma. I have to find it out from some stranger on the radio when I'm 20 years old. When were you thinking of telling me? But what was really cute was, for our wedding, they wrote a special verse of Happy Trails.
Oh, wow.
A personal verse, and they sang it at our reception. And then she wrote me a song about it. It's just called Julie. And she wrote a little song for me. And it was really special. That was
she was writing so much. It was just like part of the work. Like, well, we've got the show here. We're doing this thing. We're making these movies. And, you need a song? Here, let me bang out this song.
Yes, she wrote it on the back of an envelope, and she taught it to Grandpa real fast. And they sang it for the first time. She was writing on everything. There were notes and stuff in her purse, napkins, whatever she could find, she wrote on it. So she was a writer. She loved to write. And I know she passed that down to me because I really love to write. So
Oh, fantastic. It is amazing. Now, do you think like in today's what would their a TV show like Roy and Dale's, the kind of stuff they did, their movies, would that work today? I mean, it's interesting because I see, how we've changed so much, but then people like the same things really. So
well,
would you
they
think it would work
do
now?
if you're over 50 or 60, they do. But if you're under that, I really, I mean, I don't want to say that, but I am going to say that because I'm honest. I don't think that it would go today because it would be corny. First of all, I've watched their show and I just think, wow, that was a different day in TV. And my own sons, who are their great grandchildren, something about this generation, they don't like black and white,
It's
black and
weird
white
for them.
TV. Yeah, and it didn't have any special effects. There was not, all they did was shoot the gun out of the guy's hand. They never, shot anybody and they were laying with blood or anything. So it was just a different day. And I know it's a feel good thing for nostalgia and the older people, but I just don't I don't know, unless we come so far that we are so sick of, what we're seeing and who we are that we just want to swing the opposite way. I don't see it.
And I think, yeah, I mean, if you had a young couple who were the equivalent now and color and jazz it up a little, but I do see, I mean, the number of people I hear from who are very young who have started watching Little House on the Prairie. I mean, it's really weird to go on Facebook and someone's like, don't tell me what happens, like spoiler alert. And it's like, dude, the show's been on for 50 years. It's a real
Yeah, we've seen it
alert.
a dozen
It was 50 years.
times.
And they're like, no, I'm on season 2. I just started. These people
But
who
see,
just started
but
watching
Little House, yeah, but Little House is different than rewind 20 years or then
even
some,
before that.
even before that, because I think Little House still works. I still watch it. I'm flipping around channels and I go, oh, I love this. I love this show. And you are hilarious, by the way, because you're nothing like that person, and so you probably are the best actor on that entire show. Really, really. I mean, not that they're bad actors. I'm just saying that you are so different, that you really are acting. And I just think it's funny that you and Melissa are such good friends, and like you hated each other.
We were very convinced. It's like, it's true. Whenever somebody has a picture on Facebook, like that one, it's a picture just on the set during the Christmas thing, and we're smiling. They're like, wait, why are they smiling? They don't.
Why are they smiling?
They're
They
smiling.
can't
I
like
saw that
each other.
episode. She never smiled in that entire episode. Why is she smiling? And it's like hilarious. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think that made it work more. The more that we liked each other, we felt freer to be more horrible.
What, to push each other around in the mud? Yeah.
Right. Very safe. Well, nobody was going to get hurt, So it worked. But yeah, it's what I meet very, very, very young people who are like, oh yeah, no, I'm totally into Little House on the Prairie. So I think there is a pushback. I mean, I like having a multitude of different shows. I like to sometimes watch shows that are scary or gory or weird and then sometimes I'm like, are there any cartoons on? I want to watch something safe and comforting and simple.
I do too. I run the whole gamut, but I just love Little House, and I think so many people out there do too. So it's a different day. And that's why my book is a little odd, just because it's really a throwback, but I've already accomplished what my goal was, and my goal was just to write a story for my sons. I got to that age where I just thought, my sons don't really know my family history. I'd kind of like to just have it for posterity, to give it to them for Christmas. And then along the way, people kept saying, oh, you have so many good stories, you ought to write a book. And I said, well, I am, for my sons. And then every time I'd say that, they say, no, you need to publish it. We'd buy it. We'd want to read all those stories. And so I just sort of got talked into, going through a different forest, and I ended up with a book. And so, and I'm happy. I'm really happy because I think they're really good stories. They're really sweet, and it's a feel good kind of book. And the chapters are so short. You don't have to read it from cover to cover. You can just open up and read one story, but it's my take. It's my take on my relationship with them, even though it has a lot of their biographical stuff in. It's not a biography.
But I think because it's you and you're so close to them, that some of the stories you'll have will be things that people didn't know, that people didn't know about them at all.
A lot of things that people didn't know. And I have one picture where Grampy's wearing his shorts and dark socks and tennis shoes. He looks absolutely ridiculous like a grandpa. And that's, that has never been seen. And it's cute. It's a really cute picture. But yeah, lots of
fascinating. Like I said, we have this picture, this ideal, Roy and Dale, little Hapatrils, and the real people. We don't know the real people. Just even hearing about Dale wrote the song and how interesting they were. I mean, I was fascinated, as I said, when I was at that event, but I didn't know that. And finding out this real stuff, and then having someone who was there, who loved them, who was with them, and knows the whole family, to then say this is what they were really like. I think there are people who'll be absolutely fascinated with that and will want to know.
Well, and I think what, I hope so. And I think what will make them also feel good is that who you saw on the screen was, bottom line, who they were inside. So they weren't like, they acted like these wonderful people and they were horrible off screen. They were the same person, both on and off screen, except they had so much more depth to them in personal relationships, obviously. But who you hoped they were. So,
well, you see their relationship. I remember seeing clips of them on the show. It's, ha ha ha, kind of I Love Lucy-ish, played for laughs, that she is very talkative and he is the quieter one. And although it's the 40s, the 50s, he's the man of the family, she's like, okay, here's what we're doing. And you kind of go, I'm getting it. This is the relationship.
Yes. Well, you know what? I mean, back then, the women's movement came along later, and all the independence for women and stuff. She was she was on the cutting edge of that, because it wasn't real popular for women to be to have a full-time job in show business and have a family. I mean, it was just almost wrong. And she got the hang of it after a while, but at the beginning it was really hard because she wasn't a great mom with my dad, and she always looked back on that wistfully, that she would have spent more time with him. But they had a beautiful relationship. When my dad turned into his teens, it really took off. And
she was so young. She was so young.
She was like a baby raising a baby.
Right, exactly. And that's always going to have issues, big time. But that's the thing, the fact that they were partners. I always got the sense, I went, this is this cute cowboy couple, but they're like equal partners. They're working together. This is a thing.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, really a lot. And, Grandpa was really big on merchandising, because he didn't get enough from Republic. They didn't want to give him a raise, and he was getting thousands of fan mail letters. And shocker, huh? He couldn't even pay for the stamps to return, responses to the fan letters. And so he finally rented a dump truck and brought all his letters and dumped them on the CEO Republic's lawn, and he just about had a fit. And so he started marketing, doing merchandising to try to make more money. And eventually he made more money off of that, obviously, than he did on his films. And, the NFL was under his umbrella at the very beginning, because, he had the idea for NFL merchandising with his merchandising man. They talked about it and they thought, hey, it's working so well for me. I think the NFL would benefit. But what happened was that his manager scooted off to the NFL and kind of left, and took the idea, and then he was out. But I thought that was interesting, and I had to read that in a Time magazine at the dentist office.
And nobody tells you anything.
And nobody tells me anything. I had to call my Uncle Dusty and say, "Is this true?" And he said, "Well, you know what? Unfortunately, Cabbage." He calls me Cabbage. He said, "Unfortunately, Cabbage, it is true. It's not a great story, with Dad. It's kind of a sore subject, but yeah, it was true." So
but that's so showbiz again. So showbiz. Typical. But I'm seeing that they were second really to like Walt Disney in the amount of that they were that huge.
Right.
With the merchandising. There's all this Roy Rogers stuff.
The only one that had more merchandise out than Grandpa. And that's pretty big, because Walt Disney had a ton of merchandise.
Hello, they were still the king,
Yeah. So
but he wanted to make see more. I mean, that's because I read about like a lot of rock stars now, rock and pop stars, because everything's changed so much with how records are sold. They're not records; it's all online. You make so little. How much
Yes.
do you make from concerts? There are people who make more from their merchandise,
Oh,
from
yeah.
their band T-shirts and books and stuff they're doing than they do
Yep.
from any records, and sometimes even more from the tour.
Yeah, I know. No wonder they have stands set up, like at the Hollywood Bowl. I saw
Oh, yeah.
Steve Martin and his group. He was awesome. He's such a great banjo player and musician, but he was funny. So it was like, it was like you got two shows. But merchandise, there was
They make
like a
money.
line around the corner for his merchandise. So
So your
and that's just
grandfather
one.
was the pioneer of this, realizing that the money was in the merchandising.
Yes, yes. So, and as he got older, he didn't really want to make movies anymore. And that worked in really well for, to just have the merchandising take over. And then he went, and then TV kind of went into the variety show era where there were lots of, Glenn Campbell and Andy Williams and I don't know, the Muppets. So they made that whole tour of
They were on
of
everything.
shows.
They did the Muppets, Roy and Dale, and the
Yeah,
Muppets. And see, that's
I
why I said
know.
there are younger people who know who they are because they're like, oh yeah, I saw them when they were on the Muppet Show.
Oh
They
yeah,
didn't
that's
see
right.
them
I know.
originally,
Yeah, the
but
Muppets.
they saw them on all these other shows and went, who's this strange cowboy couple? What is going
Yeah.
on?
Yeah, they had us on a couple of times, the whole family, and that was a hoot for all of us because, it wasn't our daily life. And it was a little bit of a train wreck because when Jonathan Winters came out to tell us a story on the couch, it was a Christmas variety show. It aired in December. My cousin, who was only about 4 at the time, decided he didn't want to come over and listen. He picked up a rubber ball and just tossed it at Jonathan Winters, and it knocked his Viking hat off. And he started ad-libbing, and he was funnier in the ad-lib than he was, with the cue card. So they just put him down, and the cameramen were laughing so hard their tears were rolling down their cheeks. And we were all mad at him because we were going to get to do 2 shows. Well, because the producer liked that one so much, he said, "No, you guys can go home." It's like, we don't want to go home. Thanks a lot, Robbie.
Winters was so bananas. That was his whole thing, improv. So really, I mean, I
It-
suppose your cousin whacking him with the ball was
It was
genius.
hilarious.
Because
But you know what? He was, I think, seriously a little miffed at my cousin Robbie because years later, and I'm not talking just a year later, like maybe 10 or 15 years later, he ran into my grandma at some event and he'd go, "So, hey Dale, how's that blankety blank grandson of yours?" And I mean, we have never let Rob off the hook for that one. And apparently Jonathan Winters didn't either.
What is it they say? Never work with animals or children.
Or children.
Yes.
Yeah, because you never know. My poor aunt was trying to grab him on the stage. It was
this is hysterical.
Like,
I want to see this clip. Somebody has to pull this footage.
I know.
Right?
I know. It was funny.
Now, you've talked about that for you. I mean, you almost didn't know they were famous when you were very young. You didn't even really grasp certainly how famous they were. And that it was sort of normal. Like everybody's on TV. Everybody knows people.
Yeah. Well, because normal is whatever you grow up with. And so if that's my normal, I just figure, well, everybody's grandfather has a TV show and, everybody's grandparents get dressed up and go on stage and do this or do that. So it was very, I don't want to go so far to say it was like, oh, ho hum, it didn't matter to me because I thought it was wonderful. It was fun, but I wasn't impressed by it. And so my 2nd grade teacher brought me up to the classroom to her desk one day and said, "Do you know who this is?" And there was a stack of weekly readers on her desk, those things that they used to pass out.
I love the weekly readers so much when I was a kid.
Yeah, we still have those. I teach 3rd grade. We still have like
thank heavens, because the weekly reader rules.
But anyway, I said, "Well, yeah, that's my grandfather." And she made such a big deal about it that I went home that day and I said to my parents, "What is going on? Why did she make such a big deal? How does she even know him? What, and that was kind of the beginning, the bare beginning of me starting to realize the effect that they had on people outside the family and that they were known. And but I didn't know that until 2nd grade. So, we got used to being stared at and whispered and, pointing and stuff like that when we were out with them. But I never confused the fact that they weren't pointing at me. They were pointing at the fact that we were with them. And it was them, it was, their spotlight that they would pull us into sometimes. And we would have these little glimpses of what they experienced every day when they went out. And
I get that, because when I was a kid, my family, I kind of thought everybody worked in television and everybody was on TV. I thought people took turns because people would come to our house and did dinner and everybody was on TV. Like, well, isn't just I was probably about 6 or 7 before I realized every single human was not on television.
And did you I'm sure you got noticed all over the place when you went out, in public places.
Oh, and and then I became
called you Nellie.
Really famous, like at 12, and I was like famous, and it's just like weird. It's just like totally weird. And and then it's just, and my friends, luckily, my friends, they just kind of shined it on. They didn't care. My real friends I knew from school, like, oh yeah, Alison's on a show, which was helpful.
And it's just normal. Although sometimes I got shunned from, like, if I was the new girl, they would look at me and go, "Oh, you think you're just so great, don't you?" They would treat me like, I don't know, like they thought they had these misconceptions.
You haven't said a thing. You haven't done anything. And they've decided that you're a snob. They're going to reject you before you reject them in case you're too famous to be around them.
And that would happen. And that's so strange because I wasn't even on TV. It wasn't like I was anybody. And yet they thought that I would be that way because of my grandparents. Because back then, my grandparents, everybody pretty much knew them. So today is a very different day. My kids don't even understand it, what I went through as a little kid because they were known. And so I guess, and I kind of go through some of those times in my book. And I think it's good for my kids to read about what I had growing up and that it's so different now, and I don't know, maybe they'll just like it because, they'll appreciate mom writing a book to them. I dedicated it to them, obviously. And, it's really special. I mean, I did what I set out to do. And now if it sells, that'll be even better. And, I mean, I loved your book. I bought your book when you came to the Roy Rogers Festival. And it's just, like you say, it's just fun to get to know, the stories, the backside stories.
Well, and then you said you're teaching 3rd grade. So do these 3rd graders, to their parents, do they know who Roy and Dale are? What does it mean to these families?
The funny thing is, one of them found it on Amazon, and they came to school and said, "Oh, you're on Amazon, and I saw you sitting on your horse on the front cover." And and I was like, "Oh, really?" And it wasn't so much, I mean, their parents knew, but a lot of the kids' parents don't know, but their grandparents do.
Okay, right.
And because their grandparents are more like my age, and their parents are like my kids' ages. Gosh, I don't even want to be saying that.
Isn't that terrifying?
Yeah. Cut that out.
we start doing the math, and it's like, no. I
know. I don't want to do any math. No math here. It's bad enough that I look like something from that Krabby Patty guy in SpongeBob.
Because we were supposed to spend the weekend together in Missouri, because I'm going to the Cherry Blossom Festival in Marshville, Missouri. I leave on Thursday, and you are absolutely scheduled. And now you're like, not going. What did you do?
I bent it back the wrong way. I hyperextended my thumb, and I had osteoarthritis in it anyway. And I was going to get it worked on this summer, but he just said, now's the right time. We need to do this, and so. Horrible timing. We just had spring break at school, and now I'm taking off the next week to have surgery, and be gone for 2 days. Not the best timing. And I'm so sorry to my school district for that. I really am. But you can see I'm not kidding. And I mean, I'm going to hurt myself if I don't realize it in bed, at night when I'm asleep.
Don't whack yourself in the head with your cast. That would be very painful.
Yeah, it's life just kind of goes. It's like you getting sick and in another country. You just don't expect things and things happen.
Yep. Germs. It's like, yeah, right. I was, there I was in Missouri. Like, next thing I know, I'm like completely laid out, and dehydrated. Like,
Yeah.
wait, what just happened? I was fine 5 minutes ago.
What just happened here? And so you just have to roll with it. As long as I have my "Did anybody say Roy Rogers" shirt on, then I'm
sure you actually have. Did anybody say, is that shirt like available? Is that like a shirt?
It is. But I don't know why it's available, because I just don't know why. But I found it, so I thought,
found
hey,
it?
this shirt
You're
is
not
for
selling
me.
them yourself. You just found it.
Oh no, they would be good to sell. I kind of like it. It's kind of different, So, but there is a musician named Roy Rogers. So we get the fallout, the good fallout from a lot of stuff with him. So it could mean the other Roy Rogers, but hey, in my heart, in my mind, it's Grandpa.
Only one. There is only one. Do you think that this book will have like cause a resurgence of interest in people wanting to see the movies and the TV shows of your grandparents?
Well, I hope so. I hope so. I hope to get some, the word out kind of thing. And when people buy it, hopefully just by word of mouth. But I realize it's, it's an old topic. And, so I think my expectations are realistic, but I'm also very realistically positive. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like, I feel good.
I mean, obviously I have to get a copy right away for my father-in-law. Okay. Who's turning 101, but yes, he's going.
Oh my gosh. Where'd you go? Did you push your mute button, Allison? Where'd you go? I can't hear you. Where is your... Okay, I don't know who can hear who.
Muted. I'm like, why? I'm not muted.
Are you muted? Okay, now you're back. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I can hear me. I can hear you. Okay, good.
Yeah.
But yeah,
okay.
I think because it's that niche market thing, it's the Westerns, people really dig that. And there is a whole population that do. They go back, they watch the Roy Rogers, they watch Gene Autry, they watch all of that. There's a sort of like, cult around that.
And there is. And, the festivals, and I think they're starting to join the festivals, the Westerns with the 60s, 70s, 80s shows, because they kind of have to, because there's not enough people around that are from the Westerns. They're all gone because they're so old. And I think it fits right into like the show in Burbank, and like Jerry and Teresa Mathers, wonderful couple. I really like Teresa. We talk anyway, but I think it's a good thing that it kind of merges things together, because it still gives a life to the Westerns. But if it was just Western, the people that go, it wouldn't have as big of an audience as.
And there's people who are into the West and they don't see it so much as Westerns. To them, it's TV nostalgia. There's the people who see it as TV nostalgia. So if you put the TV nostalgia in the Western people, then everybody's happy.
Then everybody's happy, and you have a bigger crowd and a more diverse crowd, and it's just fun, and that's how I get to meet, people like you, because even though yours was a Western, it wasn't added in with all those old black and white Westerns. For so long, we had those festivals for them. And now I'm glad to see that they're kind of widening their audience.
And then, of course, we have Cherry Blossom, which unfortunately you messed up your hand. You can't go. Yeah, which is everything. Cherry Blossom is like everything and everything all at the same time at one show. So
no, next year. There's always next year. Now. Yeah, I did this hand. Now this hand. I'll be all done. No
okay. You have everything done, because you're not going to hear like the end of this that you missed when you said, "No, I'm not coming." Ha ha. I was like,
I know. Oh man. Frustrating. Oh well.
You and your family, you're very entertaining. I mean, when I was at the Roy Rogers event and everything, you and was it your sister and your aunt? There was a whole slew of you. Yes.
Yeah.
And you guys were a riot on stage.
Oh, we love each other. Dodie and I. Dodie's my Native American aunt, but she's only like 5 years older than me, 6 years older than me. So she's more like a cousin. And when we get together, we're scary. I mean, we don't look a thing alike, but our personalities are so similar. And my husband and her husband just have to roll their eyes and shake their heads, and sometimes they don't know what to do. But it's really fun when I get to see her. So I'm going to get to see her for the Roy Rogers Festival this August.
Oh,
and
cool.
I'm really excited about that because, they live back in Alabama, and I hardly ever see them. Yeah, we're all over the country now.
Because I thought you guys should have your own show. I was like, this is kind of like the Mandrell sisters. There's a thing going on. These two are hysterical. They could completely have their own show.
We were on a radio spot, I don't know, back there for the show, to promote the show. And I just said, okay, just don't look at me. Okay, just and I said, don't look at me. And then we got laughing about like we're 10. It's like we're 10 years old. Don't look at me. No, okay, now I'm laughing, so stop it. And anyway, we just have tons of fun. And she better get on her book because she's writing a book too. So she needs to, Jody, if you're listening,
the whole series.
You got to get, and she's a daughter, so she's going to have, a whole different take on Grandma and Grandpa. It's Dad and Mom, and they were pretty strict. So they weren't as strict with us. And so you'll get two very different perspectives from me and my aunt.
Well, isn't it kind of a law that grandparents have to spoil the grandchildren?
Yes. Well, and it's funny because they didn't spoil us with things. They didn't give us, they didn't overdo it with that. But they always were trying to find time to be with us. And I can remember so many birthday parties, recitals, school plays, family outings, all kinds of stuff that they would make the effort to be there. And so there was never a time that I didn't, that I wondered if they loved me or not. I knew it because they were just Grandma and Grandpa, and they wanted to be at something that was important to me. And that was as important as going on the Dean Martin show, and I don't know. I just think that that's something that the kids didn't see as much of because they had to do it. It was their job. It was, day in and day out. It was a grind because they had to get up at 4 a.m, and they worked till after dark. And so it was, in some ways, it was harder for them and easier for us. But we all have different takes on them, but they were just wonderful no matter, what position you were in the family.
Oh, this sounds cool. All right. Where do we get the book? Where do we find you online? And where do we get the book?
Well, you can go to Amazon. It's on Amazon, and it's called Your Heroes, My Grandparents, A Granddaughter's Love. And you can also get it on the Barnes & Noble website. And then I am trying to get a website up and running because people have asked me, I really want a book, but I want you to sign it. And it's kind of a deal because they have to get it, then send it to me, and I'm always giving them my, personal address out. So one of these days, people are going to show up at my door and we're going to, have a impromptu party.
You got to set up a system with another email thing and a little BO box and
Yeah.
Oh,
so
yeah,
I
got a thing. I got the box. I got the website.
You got it all.
They don't know where I am. It's fabulous. And I sign stacks of stuff. So you got to get a system. I'll help you.
So you have to get a system.
I'll get you hooked up with the thing in the box and the thing. Would you
give me some tips because I have no clue what I'm doing at all?
But you're on Facebook. You're there.
I am on Facebook, but then that's even confusing because I use Julie Rogers Pomilia for my book because it's name recognition, obviously. Yes. But on Facebook, I'm Julie Fox Ashley Pomilia.
I did notice that, and I was like, that's a lot of names.
It's a lot of names. So, you know what? You just, if somebody has a night where they're really bored to tears and they want to go through Facebook and try to find me, I'm sure that they will. But I don't make it very easy.
Well, we will talk. I will hook you up with like a fan page on Facebook and a PO box, and we'll get like a show on the road.
I really need that.
I have more tech. So
thank you, Alison. You're wonderful.
So much. I am going to miss you at Cherry Blossom. We'll all talk about you while you're not there.
I'm sure you will. And Olin's going to be there, by the way.
Right. I know he's coming. So we're going to have a blast. Yep. And I hope you're a little gets better and get better. And I can't wait to read your book. And it's going to be fabulous. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Allison, for having me on the show. And I can't wait to see you guys again.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for watching, because this is the Alison Arngrim Show. And I'm Alison Arngrim.
Happy trails.
I